Today, I'm talking to Nancy Tassone of Jamison, Sotheby's International Realty in Chicago. 19 years into the business, she has almost $1 billion in closed sales and has been named a Chicago Association of Realtors top producer every year since 2005. Most recently, she has been named the #1 agent in the city. Nancy began her career with JDL Brokerage as a founder and managing broker, where she was responsible for sellouts totaling over $500 million. Prior to real estate, Nancy had a successful career in advertising and marketing with Accenture, the renowned global consulting company. She and I talk about how to hone your strengths, let go of your weaknesses, and be the top agent in your market. Thanks for listening to the Jere podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. This podcast was created for real estate agents across the country to come together, sharing ideas to take your, their, and our business to the next level. All right, everybody, it's the Jere podcast where top real estate agents tell how they do it. Today, we have Nancy Tassone from Chicago, Illinois, the top agent in Atlanta, top individual agent in Chicago, not Atlanta. I'm in Atlanta, and with Sotheby's International Realty. Nancy, thanks so much for being on the show.
Hi, Jere. Thank you so much for having me. This should be really fun.
Yes, I'm excited. The thing about Nancy, y'all, is obviously she's very down to earth and happy, and yet she's the top individual agent in the city, but she doesn't know how she does it, but we're going to pull it out of her anyway. So how did you get in the business? What made you decide to be an agent?
I kind of fell into it. It's an interesting story. I was out of college. I went to work for, at the time, what was Anderson Consulting and now is known as Accenture consulting firm. And I was working in marketing there and wasn't unhappy. I just switched jobs within the company and had a boss who lived in London. And so I'd work early in the mornings and work through while she was there. But as you know, it's a time ahead. And so I had a little bit more, or multiple time zones ahead. So a little bit more spare time. And a friend of mine at the time, her family owns a property management company, and they needed some help with some marketing. And I was like, oh, I'll help you, so I would go over to the office and, it was a very laid back family owned company. And I noticed I was kind of interested in, they were obviously renting all their units, and I just kind of piqued my interest. So for fun, I just started renting some units, and all of a sudden I was like, wait, I'm kind of good at this, but it just feels a little bit natural, the interactions with people. And so I decided to, on the side of my full-time job, get my real estate license. I had no idea what I was doing, but I thought, well, that's a good idea. So, and also concurrently at the time, my now husband, at the time, I think we were engaged. We were looking for our first place to buy. And while we were doing it, I felt like, I did a lot of work and it was really interesting and exciting. And so it felt interesting to me. So I got my real estate license, was doing some work on the side. I joined forces with, at the time, was an ex-real estate attorney who was starting his own brokerage company. And we met through mutual friends, and he said, come work with me, I'll help you. And so I just learned on the job. And it was so funny because I remember at that time, this was in, I think 2000, it was, all the entry was DOS based. I mean, this was like archaic that we would think, that, that's how we entered our listings. And so, so I was doing a little bit on the side, and I was still working at the consulting company. And, I started to realize that an office atmosphere, like 9 to 5 cubicle job, was just not suitable for my personality, or really not like suitable for my strengths. I took a look at my strengths and weaknesses, and was just kind of realizing that I might be a little bit better out in the world, doing something, interacting with people, but still was, at this great, secure, incredible company that I was so thankful to work at, with, amazing benefits and, at the time, probably a decent salary for my age. And my husband and I were thinking about moving, and I, was licensed and working at the time. And I read a little blurb in the Chicago Tribune, back in the day where we used to actually read the newspaper, that said, that Jim Letchinger, who's the principal at JDL Development, had purchased a bunch of land that was near where we had lived. And we had bought a townhome and, wanted to invest in something, further. And so I read that he was going to be building townhomes, nothing else. So I look up the developer, I give him a call, and explain who I am. And he said, we're not ready. The project's not ready. I said, well, just let me, come in and talk to you about it. I'll be your first buyer. And I seriously cannot remember what actually happened in the meeting, but somehow I ended up coming out of the meeting, quitting my job at Accenture and going to work for him full time and selling his project, which we started selling, I think in 2001 or 02. Complete leap of faith for both of us. Something just clicked with us. Of course, I ended up buying a unit there. I was the first buyer and also the first employee. And that became the real start of my real estate career. I had, I had nothing to do but work at the time. I, had no kids and, I worked 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we started by selling a new construction project that he brought to the area. That's the one that I had read about. And that, kind of launched
that you bought.
Yeah, we bought there. Yeah. We bought a few units there and, did well. And I still live in the area. I ended up, we lived I sold out that development and a bunch of stuff nearby. And then he was creating another project across the street and of homes. And I ended up buying there. I've been in that and he's built my last two houses. I've been in my current house for about 13 years. And that was the odd launch of my real estate career. And to this day, he is still my best and most loyal client. I recently sold out a $350 million project for him at number 9.
Wow.
It's just, this business is all about relationships, and it just goes to show that he's also, become like family to me. So I really owe him a lot for helping to launch my career.
What a great story. So you started out by winning your first client before you even knew you were an agent. You were licensed.
Much. I had done a few transactions.
Well, this interview's over because nobody gets that lucky. Just kidding.
Right.
There's a lot more than luck to it, though. Yeah.
It's, I don't know what it is. I just, I'm really diligent about my job. I think the training that I had, I got a business degree from my, University of Wisconsin, Madison. Mm-hmm. I worked so hard. I think when you're also are trained in a corporate environment where in that time you got to work to the office before your boss was in and you left after your boss left, no matter what you were doing. It just kind of trained me to be super diligent about, just to work hard. And I think, hard work does really pay off, and then meeting the right people and just putting yourself out there. And I'm a huge believer in what goes around comes around. And just,
and it's like you said, well, what is the saying? The harder I work, the luckier I get. Oh yeah. Right. It is and so many people say, oh, you're so lucky. I was like, oh my gosh, you have no idea how hard I've worked to get here. Yeah. And I think, luck plays a little role in everything in life too. But yeah, that is correct. I do think the harder you work, the luckier you get. And I think it's interesting what you talked about, having a business degree. I don't know if you know Erin Kruger. She's an agent in Nashville who sells 500 deals a year. Whoa. Does 100 million. I mean, her number, she doesn't sell the price point you're dealing in, but she's doing 500 deals a year with 10 people or 8 people. Wow. I can't remember, but that's like over 50 deals per person. But she did it. She said she attributes that to her MBA. But then the other thing I love that you say is you worked in a corporate environment and you were trained. Our environment, and then you probably know Liz Bentley. She's on one of our shows, but she talks about how, well, she's a coach. She's actually a coach. She's one of the few people on the show who's not an agent. But she talks about how as a real estate agent, we don't get that corporate feedback and training. Mm-hmm. So we have to be aware of that and get in tune to feedback because it's not direct. Okay, so we had a glitch for a minute. We're back. You got to move rooms, and taking it from there, we got into talking about how you were a successful young person in marketing at Accenture and how the discipline, being in the corporate world, the training, you think really impacted and set you up for success now. Does that kind of sum it up? And you want to add to that? I really do. I think, just the concept of being present and working through every detail was given to me at a really young age when I started work. I was so lucky to have a job out of college at such a
prestigious company that I
Yeah.
just, was there really early and stayed really late and just, was kind of there to do anything that I could possibly do. And I think that really did. I think that has helped me throughout my career.
So that was a kind of a risk to leave such a great job and a great company with great benefits to go be a real estate agent for a guy that you met who had a development and none of his units had sold yet. How did you know?
Completely. I don't know.
Why did you do it?
I I think I'm a person who always has trusted my gut and really gone on my instinct about people. And there was just something about him that, um, I don't know, it just felt right. And I felt like,
Yeah.
why not? I'm young and I really think I love real estate. And I liked the idea of selling this and I love a challenge. And it just, it was great. It's super. And it ended up, we sold everything out pre-construction and, um, it was bold, but I think, you have to take chances in life or else, you look at all successful people, really successful people have taken a chance and kind of risked or thrown away the comfortable and just forced themselves to be uncomfortable. And that's what I did. And I'm certainly happy that I did it.
Exactly. So what did that look like? Most people go into being a real estate agent and they're like, where am I going to get my first deal? How am I going to do it? You knew that, but there were still a lot of unknowns and there was a lot to learn and figure out. How did you learn? Because you went from zero to no time, I would assume. You're going from kind of another job that you were good at, but you shifted gears into selling developments and learning our business quickly. How did you do that?
I
Like,
think
what was the moment where you
it
just
was
kind of like
all,
figured it out?
it was all a blur. Well, the good news is that I had done transactions before I started the new construction. So I was working part-time as a realtor. So I had, the interaction. I did some buying and selling.
Yeah.
And a lot of faking it, a lot of asking questions and not being afraid to ask questions. It's selling is selling no matter what you're selling. I think that, I took a lot of time to understand the product I was selling and to learn all about construction and materials and things that I never knew anything about. I, kind of dove headfirst into just getting as much knowledge as I could.
Mm-hmm.
I had a great real estate attorney who helped me understand the contracts and I picked things up pretty quick. So I just rolled with it and
Yeah.
spent a lot of time kind of taking in knowledge and not being afraid to ask questions because, at the end of the day, as real estate is someone's biggest purchase. It is the most emotional purchase. There's not much room for error on your part. So I just made sure that I knew what I was talking about. And if I didn't, I found out what I was doing. I
Yeah.
figured it out.
So it's basically a lot of it is being around the right people and finding
Mhm.
the right people, and doing that had a lot to do with following your gut and asking questions. I always hear a lot of, people talk about it's not about answers, it's about questions, asking the right questions and knowing the questions to ask. And you had enough experience to know that. And then remembering we're in a business where you're dealing with emotions. That was that a big shift from going from Accenture to real estate and people buying homes?
Oh my gosh, yes. If you could think of two more opposite businesses, really anything in a corporate environment versus real estate. Real estate's complete chaos. I've learned over the years that I function my best in chaos. So I think that's, a little key to success for me. I like every day to be different. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had to make the adjustment, but I really liked the adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, corporate life was very formatted and there was a system and then you get promoted to this and then you get promoted to that. And I just am a little more out of the box and I guess entrepreneurial in a way. All of us realtors are. And so I felt like an immediate connection to what I was doing.
Wow.
I think the hardest adjustment to real estate was you're kind of starting from ground zero
Yeah.
and there is no salary and there are no benefits and you have to create your own business. But that's why we also have unlimited earning potential. So,
Exactly.
there's risk and there's reward. And I kind of thrive off that.
I'm going to sum it up again for everybody. You talked about being what you didn't say it this way, but what I heard, and correct me if I'm missing anything, but you found the right, you aligned and were drawn to the right people, following your gut, You weren't afraid to ask questions and look for the right questions. And you recognized the people's emotions and that big shift in your business. And in all of that was competence. And all of that is never losing being competent. Like competence is key. Not, I think a lot of people get in our business and they just want to learn to BS well enough to do business. And that's not
Right.
what this is about.
That's right. I mean, you're definitely right on. You summed that up well.
What would be, what do you think in that shift and in being an agent then? And let's get to where you are now. I mean, a top agent in the city who doesn't know her numbers, by the way, everybody. So we'll look them up and report them later. She has done a $350 million deal. Pretty impressive. What was your biggest aha in all of this?
Oh my gosh. So much has happened since I first got into real estate. The crash, I was right there in the crash. And at the same time, the market crash, I had twins that were born 3 months premature and were very,
Wow.
very sick. And I had another young child at home, and, life was just kind of chaotic, and I had to step away for about 8 or 9 months. Not that there was much business to do, but
Yeah.
the new construction business led to more clients, and keeping up with relationships. Then the market crashed. Nobody had any business. I had, very sick twins that I had to deal with, and
Wow.
and no income.
Yeah.
So I think when I came back, I never wanted to stop working. I just had to, because they were ill, and we just had a lot to deal with going on with them. But when I stepped back into it, I really had to reinvent myself, because after 2007, kind of the funnel of business that came through JDL that vastly supplemented my let's call it my regular real estate transactions, was completely dried up. And it wasn't until I sold number 9 Walton, which began in 2015, that there was no new construction. So from 2007 until 2015, those 8 years, I was just, I was back building myself up. It's kind of a blur to me how it all happened. But I joined forces once I came back to work. When I had to leave, my best friend and work husband, I call him, at Sotheby's. Now I, referred all my business to him at the time. And then when I came back, it just made sense that we work at the same company. And at that time, it was a different Sotheby's affiliate who's no longer, it was the first Chicago affiliate who's no longer in business. And then once I learned Jamison was becoming a Sotheby's, we kind of went around and talked to different companies and just found that like perfect fit. And so I think that's where that was probably 2010 or 2011. And then it just I truly don't know how I got from there to here. I will say it's just part of it is just being in the community, and I love talking to people and meeting people, and I'm a very low pressure kind of person. I'm more of a much more of a soft seller. It's effective and it's efficient, but I'm not a cold caller. I'm just, out there with people and in the community. And then my business started to grow, a lot of resales from some of the new construction I had sold. And I guess, I don't know, one thing just led to another. And
Wow.
here I am still in business.
So one thing you didn't tell us is you reinvented yourself during the period of recession, basically through 2015. How did you reinvent yourself? How did you figure that out? What did you do?
I think I just really honed in on people that I knew in my sphere. You hear a lot about your sphere of influence, and just kind of really working the people that, remember I had already been in business since 2000. So I had a lot of contacts, a lot of connections. And those people were, maybe the people who were buying the $600,000 townhomes were now ready to move up or ready to move to the suburbs or whatever it may be. And so, I was there and I was present, and I was living in that community that I sold in. And I had also sold, I should rewind. I sold on another building probably in 2004, 2005 for the developer in the Gold Coast. That was another high-end building. And I guess I think I had actually done two of them, or half of one and a full one of the other. So I had a lot of contacts in the Gold Coast, and I just, I had done a lot of business. And so I just kind of circled back on that. And, I'd be at the time I had young children. So I'd be at the park and I'd be talking to people, and, everybody loves to talk about real estate. It's like, the first, when someone finds out you're a real estate broker, that, what's the first question that comes out? How is the market? What do you think? I was thinking about doing this to my house. And so, just through conversing, at the time, we didn't have social media. We weren't texting. It's like,
I forget that.
Right? People were talking to each other. It was amazing.
That's kind of nice. Yeah. So a lot of it is being authentic, being good at what you do, being detailed, and really just offering true value to people. I mean, I know that sounds basic, but that's what I keep hearing. But the fact that it's as powerful as it is to get you where you've gotten, I think is a huge message. So we talked a little bit about this before, but I know we all, when somebody sees somebody like you, it's like, sure, she's had her hard times, but she's just lucky and talented. Anybody with any amount of experience knows there's more to it than that. I know you've learned a lot of things along the way. Do you have any examples of some stories you might be able to share on kind of some things that you've gone through and how you came through it? And because of what you learned and how you handled it, it's really made a difference in your career and how you continue to grow and become a better agent.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've learned so much. It's pretty incredible. I actually used to be really emotional and take a lot of stuff personally in the business, and you cannot do that. Or else you will just either go crazy or quit. So I had some really rough clients, as we all have had, that, I unfortunately was not strong enough as a person years back to stand up for myself and to really say, like, enough is enough. And so I've learned that, only to work with people who basically get out of a bad relationship if you need to. And it's okay. It's okay to turn down business, and it's okay to stop working with someone if it's not working. So I think, kind of through that, through some different various experiences with maybe clients who haven't, treated me as a human, I've learned to really not be emotional and just it is a business, but you can only control so much, and you can only control how you react to situations. You can't control situations. And so I don't know if it was a one-time aha moment, but bad things happen. We get fired, we don't get listings, we have deals fall through, and I really give myself a very short amount of time to quote unquote mourn that, and then I move on. And I really think bigger things, when something bad happens, something good happens, and bigger things come around, and I just see it happen like time and time again. So that's been great for me. And I, really would love to pass that on to other people, because you also look at some of the failures as failure as a person, and remember, it's your job and it's a situation. And, in real estate, you're relying on so many people and people's emotions, and things happen, and it's just kind of the way it goes, and you just have to brush it off and just keep moving on, and try not to be so hard on yourself. So, and
I'm gonna, not to beat a dead horse, but how do you do that? Do you think it's just experience and seeing how things work out in the long run, or is there something like even in the moment, in the short run, that you kind of a mindset or a way of looking at things that you've kind of been able to adjust?
That's a great question. So I think it's a little bit of both. So I have the best assistant in the world. She's been with me, I think, like 9 years or something. So my first thing,
get a good assistant. Okay. Good advice.
Amazing assistant. I mean, and I call her usually, and then she tells me, "Oh my gosh, Nancy, this is not a big deal. This always, remember when this happened, and then that happened, and something, so she kind of like picks me up. And I just do, usually I just find a way to kind of relax. I'm like a candle person, and, a relaxation person. And I was telling you, I just remodeled my bedroom, and
candles.
Just find a nice space and I do some meditation and some deep breathing, and I just kind of relax, and I'm done with it,
For some yoga.
Yeah. I wish I did yoga. I should do yoga, but,
you should.
But yeah, it floats in the back of your head, and, but you just got to move on, and, there's so much, it is such a transactional business, but it's such an emotional business. And I just think when one door closes, another one opens. And I know that's a little bit cliche to say, but I've seen it happen so many times to myself, that I just have to say it.
I love that. When one door closes, another opens. Or you talked a lot about failure earlier, and it's, failure is the only way to success.
Yeah, I mean, that's true in everything, right? I have,
And if there weren't problems,
what would we do?
why would they would need to solve them?
Exactly. It's an interesting environment now with all the technology and the information that's available to all of our clients. I mean, the landscape of real estate is so different.
Yeah.
And it's really important to me that my clients understand and know the value of what I'm providing for them. So you constantly have to be working harder and learning more and knowing more, because they have access to pretty much all the information we do.
Yeah.
With the exception of maybe it's easier for us to find a few things. We need to be experts and show them why they shouldn't go with a discount brokerage, or list it themselves and, do the showings. And so I've worked really hard over the last, probably the last, let's say like 3 to 5 years, in focusing in on that part of my business, and, putting together exceptional marketing plans, and, trying to put forth out of the box ideas, and just really creating value and showing them what that value is. So
Yeah. And I think you're trying to answer it now, but I will. And there's another question in the back of my mind for you too, but you're talking about because I know a lot of people listening are going, yeah, so with all these technology, how do we present that and position ourselves to make sure our clients know that we're more valuable than the technology? And I'd argue, say technology might present us new problems now that we are the solution for.
yeah, I mean, there's so many different directions we can go with this conversation.
Yeah.
I think most importantly, I think, it is about relationships, and it's about human interaction, and, being present. So, I'm at my showings, I'm at my inspections, or otherwise it's, my assistant who's, an extension of me, but it's, being present, talking to people live on the phone, making sure that emails, texts, the tone can be completely misinterpreted. And so just, kind of going back to some of our like grassroots marketing and efforts. So that's kind of one side of things. The other side of things is just, I think that being an expert in the market and seeing different markets, both good markets and bad markets and medium markets and whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
brings a perspective that technology cannot help with. So I try and use technology to my advantage in avenues like social media, which, I just kind of missed that generation. So I have someone who does all my social media for me. Obviously I work on content, but I just, I can't keep up with that. So I try and use that to my advantage. I also, look at new and innovative ways to market and advertise. And remember, we have to spend money to make money. So don't be afraid to spend money. And so I just try and put those dollars now, instead of, looking at mostly print advertising, which we used to do in the Sunday paper. And we're looking at Google AdWords and Facebook advertising and AdWorks, and, just all different videos, and just trying to keep up with, what users are looking at. So, but it's hard. I mean, I don't discount my services, because I truly believe you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And I think you just need to hold firm to that, and just make sure you always know you always know more, and can do more than your client.
Exactly. Well, and you just said two important things: be present, connect, and be the expert. No, I'm going to say connect with your client and your ideal client, and know your market, know your stuff. Otherwise, what's your value? And do some digital marketing with some Google AdWords and SEOs and all of that good stuff. I've got another question for you, but first, on the topic of the marketing, is there any digital marketing or any marketing period that you find most impactful or that you use most?
So I have a great story. And this is kind of funny. This was like when Facebook was, we didn't have Instagram. So I sold this incredible house, probably my favorite. I just sold it for the second time. So this was actually, and in fact, this was actually Jim Letchinger from JDL. This was his personal house. 10,000
Oh,
square
wow.
feet, really big in Chicago. Just absolutely stunning. So one of my clients, past clients, I had put it on Facebook, which was a whole big thing back then. One of my clients posted on his page because it's, it's a really cool listing, most expensive listing in this Lakeview area that we're in.
Right.
So turns out one of his wife's friends who followed him on Facebook or was Facebook friends with him, saw it, and it was her dream house. Like, she had driven by it a bunch of times. She ends up buying the house. That's how I sold the house. So I kind of stuck with that, or just that has just always burned in my mind as one of the coolest stories. I mean, of course, like, that happens very rarely, but
Right.
look, that was free. That was free advertising. So I try and use that, to propel different ideas now that, everybody's online and, and everybody's doing different advertising. I don't know. I think Google AdWords are great. But truly, like, in line with the marketing, just have beautiful pictures and a beautiful video. I mean, this is
Yeah.
like, real estate 101. And I just cannot believe some of the photos that I see. Be so diligent in what your client's home looks like. I spend so much time preparing my clients for the photo shoot, and then also spend a ton of time ordering your photos correctly online.
I
Because if
love it.
someone doesn't like the first 5 photos they see, they're done with your listing and they're moving on.
So I
So
like to break everything into threes. You got to prepare, you got to stick to the basics, and you got to pay attention to the details.
yes, yes, that is,
Okay. So
yes.
we've got like 8 minutes, or technically 13. So
Okay.
let's see, because I want to ask you some more. I've got one more big question and my final three to close out the show. So, and I want to keep you on time. Um, Number one, what is your secret superpower?
My secret superpower is problem solving. I truly feel like I can solve any problem. Unless you are dealing with a crazy person, which sometimes you are, there is a solution. There is a solution to every problem, and I feel like I can get to it, and that's my superpower.
Well, you mentioned you get you didn't say these words, but you said I love chaos, or like or things being different, or there's calm in the chaos is really
Yeah.
what I heard to sum it up. So would you say that's part of what it is, or how do you problem solve so well?
Well, I think, the first part of it is just that I truly feel like I'm a good person. So I'm kind in the way I do business, but I'm a good broker. But so,
Yeah.
I don't think those two things need to be separate and distinct. And so I think that has gotten me so far because I can stay, I think other brokers like to do business with me, I hope, and I like to do business with them, and I stay very calm. And, I don't get angry, and I look at things like, okay, here's the problem. Let's figure out a way that we can solve it. And sometimes that requires me giving things, it requires my clients giving things, it requires their clients giving things. I have all the right contacts in terms of tradespeople to come out and look at problems. And I don't know, I just take a really like calm, genuine approach to it. And for me, I don't know if this is true for everyone, but it really works for me. And it's also staying true to who I am as a person. And so it makes me feel really good about the way that I do business.
So, yeah, I mean, you're making me think of Chris Voss. You know the book, I've mentioned him on this show like almost every episode. Never Split the Difference. Have you read it?
I'm sad to say I haven't, but I definitely will
Oh
now.
my God, you have to. I've only read it 7 times, and I
Oh my
stalked him
God.
until I made him my friend. And it's really funny, but it's that I read a lot of books, but that was the one. But he talks about best negotiator ever, a negotiating book. I've read so many negotiating books, I can't get through the first chapter. His book I read 7 times.
Wow.
But he talks about negotiating is not a contest. Or I don't know, he doesn't use the word contest, but it's basically it's not about, I'm losing the word, but it's about you're exploring, which is a lot of what you talk about. He reminds you that if you're angry or the other party's angry, diffuse it, because if you don't, you're dumb. you have like 31% less brain capacity. I think it's more than that to think straight. I think it's like 99 or more. But it's a lot of what you're talking about is the ability to remain calm, explore problems. And he also talks a lot about empathy, is empathizing with the other party, to be open to what is the solution and finding the way to the solution, where sometimes what appears to be a problem is actually an opportunity. Anything to add to that?
I mean, I couldn't agree more. And I can't stress enough, just be respectful to your other real estate brokers. And it's what goes around comes around. I've seen it come around too many times. And just, treat people how you would want to be treated. This is human decency. And you can still be fierce, and you can still be a great broker, and you don't have to, have a really tough facade. And, I think it's worked for me, and I really believe in it.
So respect. And another thing you said earlier that I wrote down and I didn't say, but it's exploring truth. What's the truth? What's the truth of the situation? The quote Black Swan, as our friend Chris Voss talks about, what is it that there's always something you don't know, finding that, and then just respect. You're not going to get there without it. I know I'm adding a lot to what you're saying, but it's what I'm hearing. I just want you to correct me and help everybody take it in. So secret sauce or secret superpower is problem solver. Love that. Taking that, let's go to our final 3 questions. Number 1, what do you think, and this is a broad question, what has been the most powerful tool for your success? Is it technology or a piece of technology, something you do socially, some technique you use in connecting with people? Is it some way of networking? I mean, this is a broad question, but what's the one thing you do that you couldn't do without?
Okay. Well, to be honest, it's my assistant. So, I think, yeah, I mean, that's really honest. I am announcing on this podcast that I do not have a CRM system.
You're not the only one, but I love to hear that.
Let us just process this for a second. So,
especially the top individual agent in the city of Chicago, everybody.
It's just my managing broker, Jim Miller. He would kill.
And you don't know your numbers. Jim would die.
I don't keep track of my production. I don't. It's not what it's about for me. But really, I think, the secret, the secret sauce is just realizing what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, and understanding what kind of broker I am. I am not a cold caller. I am not good at, I don't want to, I'm not into like lead generation. I'm like a connected human, and the way I operate my business is what works for me. And I've had so many people say to me, oh my gosh, you could, quadruple your business, start a team. And I know that I would be bad at managing a team, and I love the way I do business, and it works for me. And so I think it's just realizing that about yourself. And I know what works and what doesn't work for me. And I just stick to that plan. I stick to that, and I don't stray from it.
Know your strengths and stick to it. Number 2, do not tell me you're not a reader. I say this a lot now when I ask this question, so I'm going to stop everybody. But what is a book that you would most recommend we read that's most impacted you?
Okay, I do not read.
I knew it.
For business. I read a lot I read a lot of novels and a lot of books for pleasure, but I don't read. I literally, everything I do is based on like just looking inside myself and just having a lot of self-awareness, seriously, and understanding what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses. What am I good at? What am I not good at? How do I, you don't need to, I don't believe you need to learn how to sell. I think it's something that's inherent in you. And it just, I've tried to read different books that so many have been recommended, and I start them and then I stop. But I also have to say I'm a mother of 3 very busy kids, so I don't have that much spare time with my job too.
But you have enough to read novels. I mean, let's do a whole interview on how you do that.
Waiting for showings. I read on my phone.
There you go. I'd love that though, because you do find a little time for yourself somewhere in there.
Yes, absolutely.
Last question. If there's one thing, if we're going to forget everything but one thing, what do you want to make sure we remember from this interview?
Oh gosh. I would just say that, one thing that I didn't mention is there's enough real estate business to go around. So pay it forward, teach people, like share your knowledge, um, believe in who you are, stay true to who you are. And I think, this real estate world would be, a really great place if everyone can follow that.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for an awesome interview.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me.